Christopher Dunn, a name lost to the world, a life swallowed by the cold walls of a Missouri prison. 33 years ago, he was convicted of a brutal crime, a crime he swears he didn't commit. He was 25 then, a young man with dreams, a future ahead of him. Now, at 58, he's a shadow of the man he used to be, haunted by years lost, by the echo of a life stolen. He remembers the day his life changed forever, the day the police came knocking on his door. The fear that gripped him, the confusion, the disbelief. He remembers the trial, the faces of the jury, the weight of their gaze as they pronounced him guilty. He remembers the clang of the prison gates closing behind him, shutting him away from the world, from freedom, from hope. His family, shattered by the verdict, clung to the belief in his innocence. They visited him whenever they could, their faces etched with the pain of his absence. Their unwavering faith in him, their love, was the only light in his dark world. But the years were cruel, chipping away at their hope, leaving behind a raw ache of loss and injustice. Every day for 33 years, Christopher has woken up to the crushing reality of his confinement. Every day, he has fought the despair, the bitterness, clinging to the fragile thread of hope that one day, the truth will set him free. He has lived with the weight of a crime he didn't commit, a burden that has threatened to crush his spirit. The prosecution's case was built on a foundation of circumstantial evidence and witness testimonies. A lack of physical evidence linking Christopher to the crime scene left room for doubt, but the testimonies swayed the jury. One witness, a supposed friend, claimed to have seen Christopher near the victim's house on the night of the crime. Another witness, a neighbor, testified to hearing a commotion, a struggle, but couldn't definitively identify the voices. Their testimonies, though shaky, painted a picture of Christopher as a man capable of violence, a man with a motive. The prosecution presented a narrative that fit the evidence, a narrative that painted Christopher as a monster. The defense fought hard, highlighting the inconsistencies in the witness statements, the lack of concrete evidence. But the prosecution's narrative, fueled by public fear and outrage, proved more compelling. The jury, faced with a web of circumstantial evidence and persuasive arguments, delivered a guilty verdict. Christopher's world crumbled, the justice system designed to protect the innocent had failed him. He was branded a criminal sentenced to a life behind bars. His pleas of innocence fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the roar of a system that had already decided his fate. Decades passed, and the case faded from public memory. But for Christopher, the fight for justice never ended. He spent countless hours poring over his case files, researching legal precedents, writing appeals. His hope, though faint, refused to be extinguished. Then a ray of light pierced the darkness. New evidence emerged, casting doubt on the original verdict. Advanced DNA testing, unavailable at the time of the trial, revealed traces of an unidentified individual at the crime scene. This new evidence contradicted the prosecution's narrative, pointing to the possibility of another perpetrator. A group of lawyers, dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions, took on Christopher's case. They meticulously reviewed every detail, uncovering inconsistencies in the original investigation, procedural errors, and potential evidence tampering. Their findings breathed new life into Christopher's fight for freedom. Armed with this new evidence, the lawyers filed for a new hearing, a chance for Christopher to finally prove his innocence. The news of the hearing ignited a spark of hope in Christopher's weary heart. It was a chance, however slim, to reclaim his life, to rewrite the narrative that had imprisoned him for so long. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Christopher, his face etched with years of hardship, but his eyes burning with newfound hope, faced the judge. The weight of 33 lost years rested heavily on his shoulders. But the possibility of freedom fueled his determination. He was no longer the scared young man wrongly convicted. He was a survivor, a warrior fighting for his truth. The prosecution, clinging to the original verdict, argued that the new evidence was not substantial enough to overturn the conviction. They painted Christopher as a desperate man, grasping at straws, a convicted criminal trying to game the system. But the defense team, armed with facts and driven by a fervent belief in Christopher's innocence, countered their every argument. Expert witnesses testified about the flaws in the original investigation, the unreliability of witness testimonies, and the significance of the new DNA evidence. They meticulously dismantled the prosecution's case, exposing the cracks in their carefully constructed narrative. The courtroom became a battleground of truth versus fabrication, of hope versus despair. The hearing stretched on for days, each hour an agonizing test of Christopher's resilience. But with each passing day, the tide seemed to be turning. The prosecution's arguments faltered, their narrative unraveling under the weight of the new evidence. A sense of cautious optimism. The judge's decision hung in the balance. Would the justice system finally acknowledge its mistake, or would it condemn an innocent man to further years of wrongful imprisonment? The weight of the decision, the potential to right a decades-old wrong, rested heavily on the judge's shoulders. Christopher, his family, his lawyers, and everyone who had come to believe in his innocence, waited with bated breath. The Christopher Dunn case is not merely a legal battle, it's a stark reminder of the fallibility of the justice system. It highlights the devastating impact of wrongful convictions, the stolen years, the shattered lives, the erosion of faith in the very system designed to protect us. It raises uncomfortable questions about accountability, about the biases that can infiltrate investigations and trials, about the human cost of seeking justice. As we await the judge's decision, Christopher's journey stands as a beacon of resilience, a testament to the enduring power of hope in the face of despair. Regardless of the outcome, his case will continue to resonate, prompting us to confront the imperfections of the justice system and to fight for a future where innocence is protected, not condemned. The verdict, whatever it may be, will shape not only Christopher's future, but also the future of justice itself. It will determine whether the system can rectify its mistakes, whether it can learn from its past, whether it can truly serve its purpose to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. The world watches, waits, and hopes that justice, though delayed, will not be denied.